now listening to Real Talk with Herschel here at WKCG 99.1 on your FM dial. Dothan, Alabama is where we're broadcasting from. So hello world and hello Wiregrass. Now, as we start every show, we always start off with our mission. You know, our mission is help to grow our community and wake our community up and encourage our children, our women, and our men to be proud so-called citizens of this country. But always be proud of who and what you are, and remember where you are from. So there's nothing wrong with being proud of being black in America, because if you don't, who else will? Now, you know, we always start off with this same thing every week about promoting unity in the black community. And we have a big issue going on, Antoine. You know, we always support our women as well, and we got this nonsense going on with this abortion bill. Now, I'm of a mind, if I'm not directly involved in it, it's none of my business. So again, what gives the government the right to tell a woman or a couple that they can't have an abortion?
You know what, Herschel, I'm going to go left field with this. You know what gives them the right? Sexism, patriarchy. The idea that government, the idea that government can be owned and can be responded to exclusively for white men. And that is precisely the dynamic we're seeing here. We saw 25 white men write a bill. You know, first off, it should be noted that on the Senate floor debate, they had absolutely no idea how pregnancy works, Herschel. They had no idea how trimesters work. They had no idea what the scientific distinction was, what the biological distinctions were. They were simply just giving their opinion and seeking to legislate that opinion into law. Now, it's true that the bill was written by a woman. It's true that it was signed by a woman. But it's also true that patriarchy, as currently defined, normalizes the power that's concentrated in male hands, and the right that they're claiming is the right over every woman's body.
You know what, Antoine, and I hear you. I hear you, and I hear you. And I hear you, but I think I think you're overcomplicating it to me. Because let me tell you something. This is what amazes me. Y'all listening? Is this thing on? Okay. Now I want you people on Facebook to chime in as well. Here we have a bill that wants to protect the rights of an unborn fetus, unborn child. Let's say for sake of an argument. Okay, an unborn child. No. Listen to what I'm saying. They want to defend the rights of an unborn child. That's very noble, right?
Okay.
That's very noble. But once the child gets here, you don't give a damn about it. You vote against CHIP. You vote against Medicare for all. You don't adopt. But you're so concerned with the child getting here.
They voted against the Medicaid expansion during the debate.
Thank you. And that's what I'm saying. You only care about it getting here. Then when it gets here, you lock them up. If they're black or brown, you lock them up. You criminalize them. And you start that in the schools. You miseducate them. You starve them out. But you want them to have rights. I don't understand. So again, I guess this country is a sadomasochistic country because they just like torture. So you want to have a population that you can torture, a population that you can starve, a population that you can abuse and hunt down like a bunch of wild animals.
This is one of the things that I've been cautioning. This is one of those issues that's brought a lot of non-Alabama attention to Alabama. And one of the things that I tell people and advise people, particularly our liberals on the coast, in California, New York, and whatnot, shout out to all of you. But one thing I advise them is that when you're listening to conservatives, Republicans, and especially those that loudly call themselves Christians speak, don't take what they say at face value. When they say that they care about children, and I think that you should know them by their works and not by their words.
Come on.
And the problem is that because they show such callous disregard for children once they're born, because this is the place with the highest infant mortality rate in America. If I'm not mistaken, it's ranked either 50th or 49th. For black women, that means for black children, they die at childbirth at twice the rate of white children. Black women, they die at childbirth at 3 to 4 times the rate of white women. Right. When we talk about these issues, when they say that they care about children, we have to also look at how policy is designed to actually kill those children. So, the reason why I'm saying foregrounding sexism and patriarchy first is because their actions after childbirth show that children are not the factor.
Because we're fighting for our women.
Yes, that's true. That is true. That is true.
We're fighting for our women.
I'm going to go even. I'm going to go a little bit further than that.
We're fighting for our women.
No, I'm going to go a little bit further than that. What I'm going to say is I'm going to say that regardless of what individual black men's opinions are, black male voters are voting for the pro-choice party at 30-40% the rate of white women. So, that's one thing that we have to keep in mind. But, the reason why I'm foregrounding patriarchy and sexism here, white patriarchy in particular, is because controlling childbirth is controlling women's health care. And controlling women's health care ends up controlling their sexuality. And that's kind of what this is going back to, Herschel. What it's doing is that it's asserting control over when they can have sex, how freely they can have sex, and what they're using pregnancy to do is they're using pregnancy to introduce consequences for sexual behavior, Herschel. And they're maintaining that those consequences go exclusively to the woman. And a journalist at the New Republic, he issued a hypothetical, and he said that the easiest way to limit abortions is to give every male of childbearing age a vasectomy. Now, there's a reason why these so-called pro-life people are going after women's reproductive rights over going after men's responsibility in maintaining that. And I think that that's the reason why we have to, in these discussions, we can't talk about children, Herschel. This is not about children at all. This is about controlling a woman's choices. It's about controlling their healthcare outcomes. It's about creating a circumstance where every action she takes opens her to both vulnerability and to the forces of the state, honestly. And we have to be very upfront about that, Herschel.
All right. That's our in-studio, our guest. He's going to call in something that happened this morning. So I'm going to have him call in about 11:30.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to keep talking about this. Then we can shift gears a little bit. You may have something to say about it as well. But again, we can't. We can't get sucked into this and take blame for it as black men, because we're standing up and fighting for our women's rights and our children's rights. Again, when you look at this thing, Antoine, I'll say it, is we have to realize that their only concern is how you get here, so you can fill up their prisons, so you can get free labor, so that you can have something for the police to shoot at, so you can have somebody to make you feel better about yourself because you can keep them down. Let's talk about it. All of this is a plan of white supremacy. Again, they're concerned. There's no concern given to once they get here. These same right to lifers, they don't adopt children, Antoine. They don't. They don't vote for Medicaid expansion, Antoine. They don't vote for CHIP, Antoine. They don't. And this is what we have to realize is going on. All this stuff, and it's okay for us to breed for entertainment. You see what I'm saying? This is why we have to stick together and galvanize our community, because we're all at risk.
And I want to remind people that, again, childbirth is one of the most physically dangerous actions that a woman can undertake. And that is particularly true for black women, and that's particularly true for black women in rural areas and places that don't have a hospital, that don't have anybody that can actually take care of them or nurse them through childbirth. Again, we're talking about black women who die at childbirth at 243% more than white women do.
During childbirth.
Yeah, during childbirth. Again, that's an alarming statistic, and it's one that's concentrated both around black women and around black women in the South in particular. And we have to realize that when we're taking abortion off the table, we're not killing children. What we're doing is that we're actually providing a healthcare option for women who often will not go through a smooth childbirth. Because there's no predicting whether or not a baby's going to be born healthy, Herschel. Right. There's no predicting whether or not that woman will be born outside of the womb or inside of it. They're talking about fetal implantation in certain parts of the country. And again, what I'm seeing is a lack of concern both about how pregnancy affects a woman's autonomy and about how pregnancy introduces danger to a woman that the state is also refusing to respond to and refusing to pay for, Herschel. And just to be clear, I want to make sure that there's some factual notes that are introduced. Even though the bill did pass, for the remaining 6 months, all women will still be able to get abortions in the 3 abortion clinics that are left. I also want to point out that Alabama in the year 2000, it used to have 13 abortion clinics, Herschel. 13. What happened was terrorism, intimidation, assassination, like the assassination we saw of George Tenet, them introducing chemical compounds into ventilation systems at abortion clinics, firebombing them. These are regular incidences that ended up happening, and this affected how many abortion clinics would actually stay open in there. If you go to any Planned Parenthood in the state, if you go to any abortion clinic in the state, what you'll find is you'll find people accosting the women that go in. You'll find people protesting and picketing it. This is an issue where we have seen endless political violence directed towards a healthcare option that's essential for a woman's life and a woman's livelihood and a woman's ability to control her life and livelihood. And what's at stake isn't children. We're actually saying and asking whether or not women are human, whether or not that they deserve any kind of rights over their individual bodies.
Because again, what's next? What's next? If this type of law can pass in one place, it can pass in other places. Then it becomes a law.
And actually,
very careful.
Yes, and actually, when we say what's next, though, we also have to illustrate the kind of conclusion that we're going through here, because before Roe v. Wade passed, when abortion was criminalized in some states, we actually saw the lengths women would go to. And I just want to quote this excerpt from a book that's called Doctors of Conscience, and this was being reviewed by the Boston Review, and it says as follows. It says, Doctors of Conscience does not offer detailed accounts of individual women seeking abortions or the off-quoted public health statistics on the morbidity and mortality of illegal abortion. Rather, Joffe captures the, and I quote, lengths to which women would go to control their reproduction and horrific snapshot images that come from the health professionals who treated them. Emergency rooms teeming with women bleeding from corrosive agents, broken Coke bottles, catheters and coat hangers, late night operating rooms crowded with stretchers holding women who waited to have their instrumented uteruses evacuated or removed. A woman delivered to the emergency room with a paper bag containing 8 feet of her intestines. This collective of human suffering, attended by a palpable paranoia permeating the wards in which it occurred, the pervasive police presence, physicians under the threat of law, forced to grill patients about the identity of abortionists in the moments before they died. No less chilling is the insidious misogyny that stigmatized these women and devalued their lives. As one physician recounts, the special wards of public hospitals where women suffered and often died from septicemia or overwhelming infection were referred to as septic tanks by the police. Now, this is how life was for women before Roe v. Wade passed. All of these laws are worse than the abortion laws that were passed at that time. What we're consigning women to is we're consigning them to suffering. We're consigning them to death. We're consigning them to a circumstance where their rapist has more say over their body than themselves.
And as well as parental claim.
Right.
This bill is insane.
But
this bill is insane.
And again, the predictable consequence of it is that women are suffering from it. And I'm gonna be completely honest here. They're suffering because of both Republican malice and Democratic complacency. Democrats have been talking around this issue all my life. They have been namby-pamby about it. They've been calling it a distraction. They have been using half-hearted language that concedes the narratives of Republicans. When Bill Clinton famously said abortion should be safe, legal, and rare, he was making a concession to right-wingers when he said that. The Hyde Amendment, which Joe Biden supported, which says that federal funds cannot be used to give abortions. That is a concession to right-wingers saying that they have a legitimate claim over a woman's body. Democrats have not been forthright defenders of women on this issue, and one of the biggest reasons why this happened. I'm actually going to go a bit further. The Democratic gubernatorial candidate last year came to Dothan, Alabama, and said he was pro-life.
I didn't hear him saying it. Yes, I did.
Walt Maddox said that he was pro-life. Now, I do want to be clear that there is a distinction between being "quote unquote" personally pro-life or not wanting to expand it, and between the forced borough position of a lot of "quote unquote" pro-lifers. But again, Democrats have compromised on this issue. They've talked around it. During the Affordable Care Act debate, Obama even said that abortion was a distraction from the real issues. Abortion is not separate from healthcare issues, everybody.
It is healthcare.
Absolutely. It is absolutely healthcare. Abortion, it should be seen as equivalent to surgery. Whether or not you could do
It should be. It is.
It is. It really is. So, again, the kind of moralizing that we're seeing is both an effort to, and again, like I was telling my California, New York friends, do not take conservatives' words at face value on this subject. They don't care about children, they don't care about babies, and they don't care about the consequences for the women. What they're doing is they're using them as tools to advance a philosophy. See, the assumption is that there's actually two assumptions. I'm just going to be entirely honest. This is a real talk, real talk Antoine.
Come on with it.
The two, conservatives believe that the sexual revolution created women who were effectively sluts, whores, and too loose. They made them feel like they took control from what quote unquote the man's place was, and what they're doing is that they're enforcing an ideology and using law to enforce exactly. But the other part is this. I want people to be very clear because there are a lot of issues that people are not connecting to the abortion issue. The first issue is this: the possibility for bills like this to pass is only afforded by voter suppression.
Right.
Exactly. When we talk about the bill, this all started with Georgia. If Georgia had never done that bill, Alabama wouldn't have felt the need to compete as quickly as it did.
Now Ohio. Now I don't mean to cut you off, but Ohio has the same thing.
Right.
I read a story this week. There's an 11-year-old girl who was raped.
Right.
And they're going to force her to have this baby.
Right.
What kind of
Again,
bleep is that?
Yeah, it's complete disrespect for a woman's body, and it's complete disrespect.
How do you re-victimize a victim? It doesn't matter. Listen to me. It does not matter whether you're pro-life or pro-choice. It doesn't matter. That's a personal thing. That's personal. That's your personal belief. Whether you believe in pro-life
and that's your body,
and just like if it's me, it's my body, and the state or you have the right to tell me what to do with it.
Right.
So, and that's the crux of the issue.
Right.
Like you said, it doesn't matter when you fall down. Because again, people that say they're pro-life will fight to the death for an unborn child. And once they get here, they don't do anything to help that child advance.
Herschel, it gets worse. Kay Ivey killed her 7th person through execution on the same week that she passed her quote-unquote pro-life bill. Again, we need to stop taking these people at face value. And to continue the point that I was making before, one point of this is certainly, interrelated with voter suppression. But I also want people who are supposedly pro-life to think about how these white people talk about the pregnancies and births of other races. When it comes to Latinos, they call them anchor babies.
Right.
Anchor babies who are causing chain migration. When it comes to black people, they call them out of birth wetlocks and single parent homes with these unruly super predators that are coming up and being born. Again, this is how they talk about Latino and black babies. But wait a second. I'm getting to that, Herschel.
Yeah.
Statistically, the birth rate for Latinos and black people is much higher than the birth rate for white people.
Right.
What abortion does is that it forces white women to have babies.
Right.
It forces white women to have more babies.
Because there's another statistic that people don't realize. When abortion is legal, fewer black women have abortions.
I would have to look that up.
No.
I would have to look up. Okay.
No. It's a stat I looked up. I don't have the exact.
Now, my question.
But the abortion rate is lower.
If that's true, my question would be: is that a philosophical thing, or is that because black women don't have access to the health care necessary to get abortions? And that's something that that we have to think about as well. Is that if this is a health care issue, black women are considerably more likely to be uninsured.
Yeah.
And again, the abortion is never about abortion. Just like no issue is rarely about one issue. It's about multiple issues combining and showing themselves in a specific form. So at the same time, multiple states, if I'm not mistaken, Missouri is trying to have a personhood bill as well. Yeah. I think it was it Virginia that's also trying to, or North Carolina? North Carolina is also trying to have an abortion bill. Again, these people are forcing women to give birth. It's forced birth. And the issue this is intersecting with is that it's happening at the same time Trump is deporting masses of Latinos and sending them back to the border and keeping children in prisons.
Well, he kind of stopped that. He started dumping illegal aliens.
Well, he's talked about it.
No. I was watching on MSNBC the other day where they're busing people into these sanctuary cities. Now, once they start thriving, I want to see what he has to say. Because most people come here for American dream. Most people come here to escape oppression. Most people come here to escape poverty. Mm-hmm. Contrary to the narrative that 45 sets out there. Facts are facts. Facts are facts. People come here trying to escape oppression and poverty. Most people don't come here selling drugs and killing folks, and that's a misnomer. And it's ugly and it's racist as hell. And we gotta stop repeating that bullcrap, and we gotta stop giving it legs, because it's just not true.
Yeah, there's time for that. It's called blood libel.
There's nothing to back it up.
When conservatives say stuff like that, what they're doing is they're creating the conditions for mass murdering brown people and black people. What they're doing is they're publicly providing justifications, just like we saw during the
Hey, Ms. Weston.
Just like we saw during the 80s and 90s when discussions of the crack, quote unquote, crack epidemic led to mass incarceration.
Right.
So too with immigrations. We had 10 years of nativism, 10 years of MS-13 coming over the border before we got a president that started, taking those claims seriously and mass deporting immigrants. And again, this is all connected to a dynamic where violence doesn't just start with violence. Violence starts with your justifications. It starts with dehumanization. It starts with publicly accepted dehumanization. When it comes to women, when it comes to black people, when it comes to Latinos, we have accepted that, and we have seen the mainstreaming of that dehumanization in real time. And this is the consequence. Welcome to America.
Yeah. You know what, Antoine? Let's do this. Let's take a breath. And we're gonna